Hi, this is Alessandro Martinelli speaking. We are at the International Institute of Architecture in Vico Morcote, and we are here with Oliviero Godi for the workshop, The Expanded House. Hi, Oliviero. Can you introduce yourself?
Well, yes, I'm an Italian architect. I studied at Columbia University. I have an MA from Columbia University. I had the chance to work with Zaha Hadid in London, in Japan with the Obayashi Corporation, in Spain with a friend, and Israel and many other countries around the world. And eventually I came back to Italy, and now I'm also teaching at the Politecnico in Milan. So I basically work as an architect and I teach whenever I can at the Politecnico and some other schools.
You are here for this workshop, which is called The Expanded House. It is part of a program of research which the International Institute of Architecture is engaging, which tries to address the architecture in its concrete reality. Can you explain what is the topic of the workshop and how do you refer to this idea of concrete reality in architecture?
Discussing with Frederick Lebras, who is the other professor teaching here at the workshop, we were thinking about how the society is changing today, the way in which we really live in a kind of new environment, which is a mix of digital and physical environment. And in a way, there's it's emerging a new type of people, these new nomads, people that are basically at ease everywhere in the world, that speak many languages. They like to learn from the place where they're at the moment. Something happened to the... Okay. And those people are basically linked with the rest of the world through their laptop or iPad or iPhone or whatever. And they are different. They are different because, again, they stay in a place as long as that place has some kind of interest for them, which is not necessarily about money or without a job, but because they just like to be there. But they can move immediately, I wouldn't say in 5 minutes, but very quickly by themselves, with the family or whatever, to a completely different location. And they make up a new generation of people that are more, in a way, linked to the environment, because whenever they move, they try to find a connection with the site, with the context. And the context, of course, is not only made of nature, but is also made of people, of culture, religion, different experience. So basically, their richness, their portfolio is not made of jobs, but is made of this incredible sum of experiences that they make in their life just by going from one place to another. As we also say, maybe in the morning they read the New York Times, in the afternoon they like to read Le Monde, and they can speak 2 or 3 languages. They can talk at the same time with people in different language again. And in a way it's an elite, but it's no more an elite made of people with money, because as I said, the richness is the experience they have. And so the idea of the workshop is what kind of living quarter we can make for them. Because I don't even want to, we call them the expanded house, but probably it's not even a house, it's something else. Probably you have some physical element where you are rooted to the place where you are at the moment, and then you have this other kind of much more ephemeral or digital or not concrete element that is what makes you part of the global environment. For instance, we ask the students, we have 20 students from basically everywhere around the world. We have students from Columbia University, from Tongji University in China, from Italian university like the Politecnico. And we ask them to design a place where you have a fixed component, and we use a container. The idea is exactly the contradiction between making a fixed place out of something which is exactly what is the most movable and standardized element that can travel around the world. So the idea of making something fixed out of a completely transferable element. That means it is fixed, but just for the moment. And then a 40-feet container is about 30 square meters. So we decide, okay, we have 30 square meters as a housing element, and then we have maybe the negative, the void of the 30 square meters, which is half given for common space, because we are basically trying to create a community of those kind of people. And then there's another 15 square meters, which can be anywhere in the world, but can be also anything. Can be like, as I said, a mirroring space that reflects the light to power up your computer with solar cells, otherwise you need to be near some kind of plug, or can be a Wi-Fi spot, or can be like I don't know, like a Zeppelin traveling in the air and carrying around some kind of a connection. So we actually didn't give any kind of indication for this kind with these 15 meters, exactly because we want their imagination to develop some kind of, I wouldn't say solution, but some kind of proposal for those final 15 meters, last 15 meters. And we started yesterday afternoon, so basically we are there in the first stage. We are trying to compress a semester into a week, so it's really hard work. But I'm sure that also by mixing the students, they work in pair, and we didn't put any Italian with other Italians, any American with the Americans, or Chinese with the Chinese. So we mix them up. And this is also like the start of some kind of nomadism, because you are put in contact with different culture, different languages, different way of thinking. So let's see what comes out.
In our understanding, in the workshop were not only the project of the students, but the workshop in itself is a project which is led by the tutors. So what do you expect from this project? What do you think will be the achievement in the end from your standpoint?
I believe that there will be two levels of results. One, which will be in a way the simplest one, will be the physical solution of the housing problem for those people. And then there will be the most difficult one, which is to invent a new space for them, which can be, as I said, can be very immaterial. And that will be something that I'm really looking forward to have a look at. Because while for the housing through a container, there are so many solutions in container that probably they won't even be the best we can see around the world. But the connection between this very physical element and the other one, which is to be completely defined, is probably this link between the two elements is the most interesting subject of the workshop.
One last question. The International Institute of Architecture, it is, as the name says, an institute of research. An institute in architecture, first of all, it was a school before, and now it is an institute of research. So what do you expect from the institute to research to behave and to deal with the contemporary world? Because in any case, your workshop is an attempt to deal with the reality which is outside, which is changing, and probably don't have formats for inhabiting this world. And that's probably one of the aims also to achieve that. But for an institute of research in this environment that you framed with the brief of your workshop, what do you expect for us to do?
Well, the International Institute of Architecture is, in a way, a shell, is like a container itself, where I like to use the word a think tank. It is basically a think tank, a think container, not a think tank, where people can explore. Today's architecture is very much about, in a way, fulfilling the ego of either the customer or of the architect. And that's why I think eventually we have these incredibly beautiful buildings just in the skin of the building, for instance. But then when you look at the way in which you live inside, you find very traditional and boring solution. While I think that architecture today should less address the notion of the skin, which I understand is, in any case, compulsory, because we are going to consume the architecture through magazine, through the internet, and this kind of thing. The only way to represent architecture in that way is through images of the skin, of the exterior. It's very, very difficult to express the quality of the interior space through images. That's why I also think there's so much attention to the skin of the building. But as you said, the society is changing, the culture is changing, the relationship between people is dramatically changing, and architecture has to address this. In a way, we really have to make a very deep reflection about what is the direction the society is going to, and do we like it? Can we prevent some dramatic changes? Like, for instance, I see that through all these new means of communication, in reality, we are less and less able to physically deal with other people. We are not used to the physical contact anymore, or we are going away from a physical contact. It's easier for us to talk to someone through Facebook, through the internet, through the mail, but when you face each other, you can see each other in the eyes. You're not able to express yourself as well as when you use like a computer or Facebook or the mail. That means we need to recover this kind of physical proximity with other people, and architecture can be very helpful in that way. And that's what I expect to explore here too. This kind of this center to me is like the right place where suddenly we can forget about customers and real, how can you say, real and very materialistic questions, and then concentrate on the solution of the real problems of the society.
Oliviero, many thanks for your engagement with the International Institute, and let's see the result of the workshop in a few days. Bye to everyone. To the next.